They watch TV all day. They think of themselves as these passive creatures that just kind of go through life. But what the globalists have to understand is not all of us are like that, and that's why they think they're going to use the military and the police. But I got news for the, for the globalists. The military and police worldwide are waking up. You've seen it in Europe. And I think it's going to end up with the globalist getting put in prison. The problem is, like you said, the structure's now in place. So we'll probably just trade out this group for another group. I think as a culture, we have cancer. And as you just said, it's programmed to take it all. And God help us. That's all I can say. God help us.
Well, I'll give you a movie reference, which is interesting. It's very haunting. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, The Green Mile, with Tom Hanks. And there's a character named, his last name is Coffey, John Coffey. It's kind of a, JC, Jesus Christ type character.
Yeah, that's the big NFL player. I met him in a UFC fight. Big black guy with a cool voice.
Big black guy, and he's in this movie. And they're in jail, and Tom Hanks is talking to him, and he's saying, well, the guy who committed the murder, the real murderer, how did he get away with it? And this John Coffey character explains that it was love that killed the little girl. And the way he explained it is that the murderer set up two sisters, and he killed one of the sisters, and he told the other sister that if you loved your sister, you would never tell on him. So he used the idea of love to keep by her silence. Now, I may be getting this plot a little mixed up, but that's essentially the idea, is that love in the wrong hands by a pathologically sick person, it can be used as a disguise to fool people into trusting them and to fool people into thinking that they have a message that they need to respect. The love can be very used in this way.
Oh, no. That's what the tyrants do. It's all about how they love us, and they're going to take the guns, and they're going to take our property, and they're going to brainwash us because they love us.
Right. That's the message. They have a message of love and peace and understanding while they're putting us in prison, stealing our wealth, and destroying our economy. But people respond to love the same way people respond to sugar. It's hard-coded in our being. So we tend to believe it when somebody says, I love you. Our instincts are to believe them. And in that moment, that fraction of an instant is when you lose your money, you lose your economy, and you lose your country.
Yeah, because a bunch of people are posing like liberals and conservatives when they're all part of a criminal group who I was talking to the Goldman Sachs former top executive who made this documentary, A Greater Good, about vaccines killing people. And now all the documents have come out. They know they don't help you. They hurt you. It's actually spreading the disease. And she said she was a Goldman Sachs exec, managing director, and she had this Goldman Sachs, of this big pharma guy in the meeting with her. And he said, I'm going to make $7 billion this year killing people. And he thought she was part of the club. That's when she woke up. And he was telling her how much fun it was to kill people with the vaccines. And that's the crazy thing about these people. A lot of them, it's not just about power and stealing and being dominant. They really like killing people. They love the idea as the head of a big company that they're going to kill millions of people and that the hospitals are going to cover it up. I mean, it's like a really big rush for them. Zbigniew Brzezinski writes books and brags about how he triggered a group to kill millions and how cool it is, that he helped put Pol Pot in, who killed 30% of his population. And when he goes and gives a speech, the globalists are in awe of him. It's like, my God, he killed a lot of people. He's really tough. I mean, these are demons.
Well, once you scapegoat a part of the population, then they're marked for death. So in America, the poor have been scapegoated. I mean, during World War II, obviously, ethnic groups were scapegoated. They were vilified, and they were slaughtered. In America, the scapegoating goes on in terms of the poor people. Poor people are considered to be socially misfits, and that they are basically being targeted. And all the rhetoric out there, like a Mitt Romney character, for example, seems to put over this idea. Like he just said, for example, Alex, I got to ask you this question. He said, talking about Israel and Palestine, that Israel was more successful than Palestine because they were culturally superior. How is that different than the same eugenicist message of Hitler in the 30s and 40s?
No, we see this more and more, and Look, we have become a very, very dark culture. And even those of us that don't like it have just become accustomed to it, because when you dance with the devil, he doesn't change, he changes you. I want to go to some calls, but they're getting ready for all these big wars. Let me ask you this, because I want to do one more segment after this, but I want to go to calls right now. What do you make of the fact that, yeah, I mean, a year ago it was in a few newspapers that the West was putting al-Qaeda in Libya. Now it's all over the news, and the London Guardian's like, well, al-Qaeda's got good discipline. They're actually saying al-Qaeda are good guys and work for the West, but then I need to give my rights up because al-Qaeda's hiding under the table.
Well, I saw something today that made me laugh. Vladimir Putin came out with a big statement today and said that he believes that NATO should stay in Afghanistan until the job is done. When you think about it, that's such a beautiful statement because, of course, that's where Russia, the Soviet Union, basically died in Afghanistan. It's where empires go to die. And so the U.S. is embroiled in this Mideast conflagration that looks like it's going to end up in the death of the U.S. empire as well. And so there's Vladimir Putin basically just smiling and saying, yes, go for it, America. NATO should stay in Afghanistan. And of course, al-Qaeda was working for us back then. Then they switched sides. Now they're working for us again on our side. They go back and forth. They were with us. They were against us. They were with us. And also, you mentioned HSBC earlier, Alex. Now what's come out in the last week, again, to follow up a story you've been covering for 10 years on 9/11, it now has come out that HSBC funded the 9/11 terrorists. If you connect all the dots, money that they were laundering for terrorists, that's now a headline in major newspapers all over the world, extends back 10 years. So now we know where the funding came from. The $500,000 needed to do the 9/11 attacks, it came in part from HSBC.
And again, it's not just funding it, they're running it. It's like Wells Fargo running the aircraft for the Sinaloa group. I mean, this is who they are. They run it. They are the organized crime, and they're going to take everything we've got, and they've got the police training right now to kill us. And we better reach out to the police now and wake them up. Let's go to Scott in Idaho. You're on the air with Max Kaiser. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Max. Thank you both for your efforts in the battle for liberty and the cause of freedom. I have a very brief comment and a question for Max and or yourself.
Okay.
My comment is, what I think I hear you saying, Alex, is that we're fast approaching the stage of the ultimate inversion, the stage where the government is free to do anything it pleases while the citizens can act only by permission, which is the stage of the darkest periods of human history, the stage of rule by brute force. My question is, Alex and Max, it's been my experience over the past few decades that shortly after waking up, many people experience bouts of depression due to the paradigm shift, the new and true reality. What advice can you give people listening to deal with this?
I would say fight in the info war. Get aggressive. You're depressed if you're doing nothing. You're going to be exhilarated and become more vicious with the truth as you fight, as you take scalps of enemies, as you crush the enemy who needs to be driven out. Max Kaiser.
No, it's a real good question because you have to weigh the pros and cons of being awake and maybe suffering the reality of being awake. Or it's like that scene in The Matrix where he decides to go back into the Matrix. The steak tastes great. I don't care that I'm a slave living in the Matrix. I love the taste of this steak, and he wants to go back into the Matrix. It's a very profound moment in that film.
Hold on, more calls coming up. We'll be right back. This Matrix leads to death. All right, I want to take a few more calls with Max Kaiser. I really can't do justice to this, who the winner of the $10,000 contest is. I'm not going to announce it now because the sheet was in there. I needed it in the last segment. It wasn't. We're in overdrive now, and some stations don't carry this. I'm going to leave these right here, folks. This is a direct thing in front of the whole office. I'm going to leave the winner right here. I'm going to lay it down right here on top of the Time magazine over here. And at the start of the show tomorrow, I will announce the winner, and we will have a piece put together that we will play on the show with some excerpts of some of the runners-up as well. Okay, and you'll get your $10,000. It's indescribable, the great job everybody did. Look, you got to get aggressive with these tyrants. And they can't get away with this if you won't let the TSA stick their hands down your pants, because that's going to be everywhere. Like I told you, that's the new America. It's just a bunch of minders poking at you, yelling at you. because they're getting you ready to be a slave. They're getting ready to get rid of America, get rid of freedom. Braun in Alabama, you're on the air with Max Keiser. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Thanks for taking my call. I have a specific question about the economy, or rather some strategy. But to speak to what that last caller said, if I can for a minute, I think what people have trouble with in confronting all this stuff about the Matrix and the New World Order is that they also have to confront the fact that they were living in that false system and that they were fooled by it, and maybe it's an embarrassment, or it's just hard to even fathom, or it's also hard to fathom where all this could take us, and they get a little scared by it and back down. And I think that people just need to find some way to focus that energy and improve themselves. Maybe.
Yeah, no, this New World Order road leads to death. Okay, that's the globalist own statements. We've listed it all here. Do you have a quick question for Max Keiser?
Yeah, I study the economy, and my site talks about this a lot on Twitter. The perception that the market is kind of like the large populace, in the sense that they don't seem to grasp the fact that economic collapse could actually happen. All these signs that are happening now, the purchaser, the PMI indexes are crashing around the world. The UK is going into recession. All that stuff. It doesn't faze them, and the behavior.
No, I hear you. I gotta jump because we're out of time. I'm not exactly sure what the question there is. It's more of a statement. Look, folks. They're already in even like the London Telegraph, which is normally pro-banker, saying, is it time to start arresting bankers? The good news is we're getting past their puppets, Obama, Romney, Cameron, to the actual globalist. And the globalists are saying that. I mean, they're not invincible, Max. I mean, I think we're going to end up seeing a lot of these folks go to prison. I think humanity's going to wake up.
Well, they're pushing their luck. There was a report that came out today about this hedge fund manager in the Hamptons, saying that he's genuinely concerned that a populist uprising will come and attack him, and he feels very vulnerable out there in the Hamptons and Long Island, which is an enclave of many, many rich people. And I think this top group of kleptocrats, these bankers, are beginning to realize that they are very vulnerable. It's really not that difficult to get to them. And as more and more people understand the nature of their crimes, they're going to be motivated to go after them. Now, the question is, are they going to save themselves by reversing their behavior, or are they going to double down on their own fraudulent behavior? History tells us that they double down and they push their luck, and there's a revolution of some type. And we've already seen it in the Middle East, and we're seeing huge outbreaks of social unrest already in Europe. I would imagine that in Britain, within 6 months, you'll see what we've seen in Greece, because their economy is in free fall. As soon as the Olympics are over, the next round of economic numbers will be reported. It'll be confirmed that the UK is just teetering above depression. And the people are going to be out in the streets. You had 2 million people out in the streets anti-war, so that we know that they can get out onto the streets. Now, when they'll be out there fighting for themselves, they will be, and they won't be happy.
Well said, Max Keiser, maxkeiser.com. Thank you for spending time with us today. I appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure, Alex.
People will be able to see the TV show we taped, coming up on Friday at your website?
That's right. It's going to be on the famous Alex Jones on the show. Looking forward to it.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you, Max. All right, folks, a lot more coming up in retransmission. See you on the Nightly News tonight. Big show, in-studio guests, 7 o'clock Central, Prisonplanet.tv. I will announce the winners at 8 after tomorrow on the radio. We have cancer, and as you just said, it's programmed to take it all, and God help us. That's all I can say. God help us.
Well, I'll give you a movie reference, which is interesting. It's very haunting. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, The Green Mile, with Tom Hanks. And there's a character named, his last name is Coffey, John Coffey. It's kind of a, JC, Jesus Christ type character.
Yeah, that's the big NFL player. I met him in a UFC fight. Big black guy with a cool voice.
Big black guy, and he's in this movie. And they're in jail, and Tom Hanks is talking to him, and he's saying, well, the guy who committed the murder, the real murderer, how did he get away with it? And this John Coffey character explains that it was love that killed the little girl. And the way he explained it is that the murderer set up 2 sisters, and he killed one of the sisters, and he told the other sister that if you loved your sister,
and they're going to take the guns and they're going to take our property and they're going to brainwash us because they love us.
Right. That's the message. They have a message of love and peace and understanding while they're putting us in prison, stealing our wealth, and destroying our economy. But people respond to love the same way people respond to sugar. It's hard coded in our being. So we tend to believe it when somebody says, "I love you." Our instincts are to believe them. And in that moment, that fraction of an instant is where you would never tell on him. So he used the idea of love to keep by her silence. Now, I may be getting this plot a little mixed up, but that's essentially the idea, is that love in the wrong hands by a pathologically sick person, it can be used as a disguise to fool people into trusting them and to fool people into thinking that they have a message that they need to respect. The love can be very used in this way.
Oh, no. That's what the tyrants do. It's all about how they love it. They watch TV all day. They think of themselves as these passive creatures that just kind of go through life. But what the globalists have to understand is not all of us are like that. And that's why they think they're going to use the military and the police. But I got news for the globalists. The military and police worldwide are waking up. You've seen it in Europe. And I think it's going to end up with the globalists getting put in prison. The problem is, like you said, the structure's now in place. So we'll probably just trade out this group for another group. I think as a culture.